Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Hey, Chris.
Morning.
Hmm. Right. Tom's on top of a mountain. Well done. Welcome to everyone.
Hi, Karen.
I am. Hi, everybody. David. Hey, Brian.
Shall we kick off?
Let's do it. Welcome, everyone. If you found your way here today, you've made it to the Threshold Lab with the Moment Institute. I'm Emily Ray. I'm one of the hosts of this space, along with Dr. David Drake. And so today is one of our open house sessions where we have new and potential members joining us on the call today just to get a taste of what it's like here in the lab. So I want to extend a welcome to all of you who made it here today.
Wonderful. Well, I'm thinking that one of the ways we might do, just to give you a chance, if you want to check in, is maybe to think about, oh, there's Michael. What is one word that might describe you today? As a place to begin to just say hello and help us welcome you into the room. Tom's feeling calm.
Hopeful.
And DVS feeling content. Did I say your name correctly? Excellent, thank you. And Indy's feeling curious. Yeah. Christopher cheated and put in 5 words.
For those of you who are just getting your audio connected and are logging on to the call, we're just doing a brief check-in to say hello, orient to the space, and offering a one-word description of how we might be feeling as we arrive in the space today. Humming, Stephanie, I like that.
It's a way to cheat. Only one word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sandy's in a highly creative state today. Love that, Sandy.
Like so clear.
Hi, Manjeet. We're doing a one-word check-in here. If you want to offer a feeling for how you're arriving today into the space.
Tired.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So I'm wondering, Emily, if we could just spend Shannon's arriving slowly. If we could just spend, maybe I'll take a couple minutes and just sort of explain what the where the lab came from and what it is, and then you might help us organize our time about how we want to talk to each other for a while. Yeah. So for those of you who are new to us, one of the things we have observed for a long time, but particularly in the wake of these last few years we've been into, is that one of the things that adults don't have enough of often is a safe place to be, just be, and to practice. And to find ways to kind of integrate the wisdom we've accumulated, the skills and knowledge we've accumulated for a world that wants us and invites us to show up really differently. And a lot of the sort of more traditional or uniform ways of working just weren't quite enough anymore. And we're being challenged in all kinds of new ways. And as part of that, we started seeing specific things like our students want to know what graduates were like what does it look like when I've finished my program? And so we began to explore how could we connect students and graduates. They also wanted to know, how could I use this and how could I engage my clients in working with narrative coaching or integrative development? So we started helping to focus on projects. And so what we're doing starting in January, for which this is sort of our warm-up period, is creating this laboratory in which we'll sit our programs and our events and pretty much everything else we do. And sort of the funny way we sort of describe this, I suppose, is that people often come to this work because they know of me, but they really stay for each other. We have an amazing community of people that continue to learn and grow together. And as we move forward, more and more of our programs will be created and taught by our community. And it's a really unique effort on our part to do what we think is what's next for professional development, which will be much less focused on content and much more focused on, I think, two things that are often seen as sort of bonuses for training. The first is that I believe we're moving into a world in which we need to focus a lot on our own maturity, psychologically, spiritually, a number of different ways to kind of really be in the world that we're in now. And how do we do that in a way and stay healthy for ourselves, to stay grounded in ourselves and feel like we're showing up in the ways that we feel are important to us in the work that we feel is important to us. And so we're going to devote more and more of our time next year to focus on that for ourselves. And then the other half of this is that we feel like when sort of the analogy would be, particularly for coaching, that we sort of accept whatever comes through our door or whoever comes through our door. And after a while, you start to see people with the same kind of issues. And rather than sort of sit in the emergency room and doing triage with people coming into the door, what if we went out into the community, out into organizations, and we're more proactive in how we used our skills to address the issues that we face? And use all the things we've been trained to do, but maybe in some new ways. And so we're scaling up our ability to support projects. So we have people in schools and universities and in healthcare systems beginning to sort of experiment with how else could we work? How else could we engage our clients in ways that would be meaningful for them in these times? And so the lab, these Mondays are the meetup of our lab community. It's a way for people to check in, get nourished, see each other again, talk about what they're doing. And then over time, we'll start folding in more and more content into that and support for people to have those conversations. So these meetups, especially when we have our open houses, is really just a chance for people that are curious about what we do to come ask questions, talk with other people who are seeking, like what are they looking for, and just to discover what we might be doing together in some new ways. So I'm going to just sort of stop there. It's probably enough about what the lab is for now, and turn this back over to you, Emily, and see how we might get Indy in here. Yeah, hear more about what brought people here today.
Yeah. I do have curiosities about what brought you into the space today. what are your thoughts or the questions that you're bringing into the lab today? And, you know, part of the vision for this space was such that it is malleable, that we can respond to the needs of those in attendance. We don't come in with a rigid agenda for how we spend the time, but rather, you know, to open a conversation to see what emerges and how we might coalesce into one discussion or smaller discussions to help meet the needs of the folks who arrived here today.
And as with the check-in, if you want to put something in the chat box, if that's easier for you, you can do that. Or if you want to speak up, just either literally or technically raise your hand. And we would love to hear from you.
Well, I'll jump in.
Brian.
So one of the reasons I come to member meetups is to meet up with people after the member meetups. You know, so it's a kind of a gathering place, and but it's also the opportunity to connect with people for follow-on conversations, and also in the online forum that we have. Like a couple of weeks ago, Emma pointed out she wanted practice partners for getting recordings for her mentor coaching. So, you know, I thought, well, what a great opportunity to kind of be coached by Emma, who I was in some programs with. And she kind of helped me work through something, kind of open up a possibility there. And then later this week, Christopher and I are going to have a conversation about the community canvas thing that I showed, you know, you all a couple of weeks back. So that's why I come.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
So Deborah. There she is.
Hi, so I'm Deborah. I'm joining with Curiosity from Amsterdam. I am joining because I am curious to hear more about narrative coaching and how that could connect with my own practice. I work with predominantly human rights activists on story coaching. I call it story coaching. So people who've been through a very challenging time in their lives somewhere internationally, and forming and working closely with them on their story, the story they want to tell as part of their advocacy. And I'm interested to see where the intersection could be between narrative coaching and the coaching that I predominantly do.
Okay.
And I'm also currently doing a master's at UEL in applied positive psychology and coaching psychology. So I'm looking towards my thesis, and I'm very interested in narrative coaching as well. So yeah, that's enough about me. Yeah.
All right. And Mani, is that how we say your name, Mani?
Manny? Yes.
Mani, okay, excellent.
I guess I'm transitioning. My original training is psychiatry, and I switched from psychiatry to well, anything but psychiatry. Coaching, and got some training in hypnosis. Ultimately, somewhere in my hypnosis work, I think I was looking for a more structured approach, just something that, you know, had a different empirical base. I don't know exactly the word for it. And my wife and I came across in the solution-based coaching work. Somehow I stumbled upon some narrative therapy stuff. I shared it with my wife, who's also a psychologist, and we like fell in love with the ideas. And then she found this event and shared it with me. So I'm looking at how I can use the skills that I have in a context where where we're helping people, particularly shift because of my background, shift from trauma to
Mhm.
not usually from trauma to normal like they usually do, but trauma to expansion. Because I believe just because
Okay.
doesn't mean that they have to have a wall in terms of a ceiling in terms of what they can achieve.
Yeah. And would you mind sharing, like, what's led you to want to move on from psychiatry?
It didn't resonate with me. I felt
Hmm.
like there was a lot of time using diagnosis as constraints.
Mhm.
It felt as if a lot of times we would put a label on someone and then we just lived in the statistics. Oh, this person has a 20% chance of ever leaving this depression. So legally, CYA protocol, just go ahead and give them some pills and assume that they'll be here for the next few years, visiting once a week or whatever. I just think I've suffered depression and had PTSD myself. That was the joy of medical school.
Yeah.
I I just always felt like there was more to people. When I would be talking to people, I could tell the story that they had to share beyond, okay, let me go through this checklist. Okay, here, take this pills and go on. I'll see you in a
Mm.
couple. So
Mm.
I love watching, really, I think of trauma as an opportunity for sublimation.
Yeah.
Watching like how someone can take their pain and do something amazing that they can share with others who also come up from a place where they might not have felt heard and understood.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And just as a point of reference, we had a pilot program last year, which we're bringing back in a slightly different form next year, um, and looking at using the narrative coaching process, among other things, to deal with issues like trauma. Because I feel like a lot of these things get medicalized and labelized, and we're trying to explore different ways of even having this, what is the story of trauma?
Yes.
And how do we do that in a way that's perhaps more generative? And so, yeah, so I think that's wonderful. Thank you. So we'll just hear from some others, and then we'll sort of decide what seemed like the good path to go. Hmm. Yeah, but first, remember other new voices. What's on your mind today?
I see Sandy has a hand raised.
She does. Well, there she is.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm dialing in from South Africa. I thought I just had to put that in there. So I completed my enhanced practitioners program in 2018 with narrative coaching. And I've predominantly been using a lot of the methodology in corporates. I'm a change manager, so I found the methodology is very useful. But I kind of just want to deepen my practice and also just move more into the one-on-one space, because I've been shying away from that a little bit. And I feel like that's really where I'm needing to move to. And I think I just need the confidence to get into that space a little bit more. So.
Okay. And what have you appreciated or enjoyed about the narrative coaching work so far? Like, what's intrigued you?
So I love that it's the emergence of things and not the prescription of a goal or in dictating what things should be, but really allowing things to emerge and for people to be more empowered by that. It's been a challenge in some cases, to work in corporate, because corporate has, a lot of our projects are very goal orientated. But it's really, I think, when I see the shifts that people make and the deep shifts that people make, and the results of that in this work, I think that's what continually draws me to it.
Yeah, we end up doing, I've taught this work a lot in organizations, and I have to translate this a lot. And what I basically tell them is, you can have your goals, but just not yet. Because the futility for me of trying to set a goal before you even started talking to a person seems relatively absurd. But goals in goal theory in particular, can be quite helpful for people when they've had some awarenesses or some realizations in coaching, and we can use that as a tool to help them create some structures. Like how would I go after that? And how would I know if I'm doing well at what I said I wanted to do? And, but it's just really, and so that's usually I can comfort the HR person or the hiring manager to say, well, we can address those goals, but just not yet, until we find out who they are as a human being and what they really want and what they're really ready for. And yeah. All right, we have someone else. There you are. And so I'm not even.
You're not gonna try.
I'm sorry. I'm feeling a bit chicken this morning, but it's a beautiful name. Adiyanju.
Close. Adiyanju.
Adiyanju.
Yes.
Adiyanju.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
And what brought you?
It's I actually did the narrative coaching program, I think it was in 2019, and it was a bit of, how would I put it, upending, everything I've learned about coaching and what have you. And as much as I felt I didn't really, immerse myself into it fully, but it keeps, pulling me back. And the curiosity for me, because I put the word curious, even though tired was the first word, was, how do you let go of structure and, that goal definition and having, like a way, or not so much of a process, but really about, you start with the goal. And I do work with, organizations and mainly professionals in, the corporate world. So for me, and I find myself, using the narrative, you call it a process or way, and the way it, so much emerges from it, I still feel that I can, immerse myself even more. I'm currently working with a CEO, and the last 2 sessions, I had with her, it was without a goal, and, so much emerged that I was just like, oh my word, I think I've been missing out on so much. And it was really empowering, for her because of, what she was uncovering, what she was describing, discovering about herself and the way she worked, and really, pointing to who she wanted to be going forward, and how she wanted that to define what she did, and also to choose what she did, going forward. And it just kept kind of like nailing that, for her, and just watching, the story evolve from where she started off, and me not jumping in to say, okay, so what exactly are we working on here today, or what are we going after, but allowing her to just uncover everything, and so many things that she couldn't, how I put it, she really didn't have an answer for, now became very clear. And even the reasons behind that, became clear. It's still not, I'm still not fully there, to be able to work with clients, without, setting goals, but I really find it empowering and liberating, not just for myself, but also for the clients. So I guess, in the lab today is really about being comfortable with allowing, all of that to emerge. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, this work, this work seems even more important now because most of us are aware of this sort of sense that even more of our life right now is defined by the unknown than it would be perhaps in the past, or at least that we imagined in the past. And so many of us find that our clients are less certain, less clear when they show up. And so it makes to me, the almost absurdity of setting a goal. Most people are trying to figure out which way is up even these days. And so they really just need somebody to walk with them until it becomes clear. And so that's what they often seem to most appreciate about this way of working. So I'm thinking, Emily, as maybe in a little bit here, we can have one small group, a breakout group, maybe people wanting to explore more about narrative coaching and where it's at now and what might be available there. But I'm wondering if there's other topics or other gatherings or clusterings of people that would be meaningful for you to kind of help you feel like you're getting what you need from this session today.
Hi, David. Michael here.
Hey, Michael.
It's great to be back with you. It's been quite a while. I'm just resurfacing after a big, intense transition over the last 3-4 months. So I think I'm sort of arriving from one of those, sort of coming out of a storm.
Yeah.
Very productive. Lots of learning. So I'm just finding myself entering into the space in that kind of almost sort of dizzy space, and part of it's to do with a big role change in my family. It gives me a big space to try some new things. So I guess just to share, that's something that's going on for me right now.
Okay.
Would happily share with others who might have some resonance with that topic.
Okay. And where are you now?
Still, I'm on the other side of the same city in Doha, Qatar.
Okay. Wow.
It's symbolic. I moved home because the home was attached to my wife's work, and her work was shifted. So now we moved to a different location and trying a different setup.
Okay. All right. So we might have another small group about change and transitions. Yeah.
I'll be up for that.
Yeah, good. Anyone else want to share or put something into the middle that would be of value to them? All right. Continue in the chat box here. Okay. Wow. All right. So what are you thinking, Emily?
So I've queued up breakout rooms to discuss possibilities around narrative coaching, and also one around navigating transition. And, I'm wondering if you heard anything that might make for a third breakout, or if you feel that these two are pretty encompassing.
I did not, but I'm curious if there's, because I'm sort of, because we have some new people here today, and we have some returning people and people like Michael that are now a bit both, because he's returning but he's new. Yeah, if we excuse me, if we think about the change and transition topic as one of people kind of entering that process, or people kind of in the middle of that process trying to move forward. So I think if we have those two groups, and I'm wondering, so I would be happy to sort of drop in on the narrative coaching group, and we can let the change and transition group manage itself. We all have some returning people and some new people there, can help hold that space, and Emily can
I'll stay in the main, stay in the main room and just kind of help folks who might be coming in and out. So
that's good.
Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and set these up for 45. Is that that will bring us back with a good 15 minutes to reconnect and close. So what we're going to use here are the Zoom choose your own breakout room feature. So I'm going to open up these two rooms. And you all should see, if you select the breakout room option in your toolbar, access to either the narrative coaching possibility space or also the navigating transition. And you can self-select into whichever conversation feels in alignment with your needs for the day. And I will be in the main room as well. So if you had questions specifically about the lab or anything related to that, I'd be happy to answer any of those in the main room space. And you will get a message with 2 minutes to spare before your breakout room closes. We find that folks get into some pretty deep discussions. We want to make sure that you're not whisked away from that all of a sudden back to the main room. We like to give you a little bit of time there. So please feel free to select the room that you'd like to go to. And if anybody has any trouble, I can manually move you into that space as well.
All right. And one of the things we really pride ourselves in is really honoring all of you as adult learners. So we serve as a choose your own adventure kind of philosophy of really creating and curating conversations that are important to you, and also as witnessing those others in your group who are on their own journey, just as a way for people to begin to feel safe to have the conversation that's important to them about their topic. All right. So enjoy yourselves, and we'll see some of you. I'll see some of you very soon in the next few seconds, and then we'll see the rest of you when we come back after the rooms are closing. How are you today, Indy?
I'm good. I'm just in a place of kind of listening today. I've had a new entree, unanticipated, in terms of narrative coaching. And that is the idea of working with preserving language as cultural identity and protecting diversity. And I'm surprised. I did not see this coming, and I gave some thought certainly to how I would apply narrative coaching, and certainly have worked in the individual coaching and in groups of 30 or so people at a time with different experiences or structured processes. But the attraction of bringing these principles and insights and the somatic aspect of it into advocating and supporting language protection and preservation is my head feels like a pincushion right now.
That's great. Sounds like probably a great opportunity.
Thanks for the ask.
Yeah. So we've just got about 10 minutes. We're just really curious, like from each of you, those of you who could stay on, like what are you emerging with from your breakout room?
David, I was really appreciating your focus on listening, that you were noting that most of us know at least how to tell a version of our story, if not some alternate ones, but that as a culture and as individuals, we sometimes have stopped listening, especially in terms of the pandemic. We're overwhelmed. If we ever listened good before, we're not listening maybe as well right now. And how valid and valuable that is to really engaging with others without overlaying our stories on them or our expectations on them, and really listening to what is there without painting over it. Appreciate.
about for others?
I really appreciated that others joined the exploration around transition and some lovely metaphors around roller coasters and rides. And for me, what I particularly enjoyed is sort of thinking about the push and pull between rides that are sort of, or transit, how the transition can have me and I can ride the transition, sort of the push and pull, reactive and active around working with the change. And but also the energy of the we had like an emergent flow in our exploration, and then the way that represented, that was also a lovely parallel. It emerged as we went.
There was an offering and a listening of all so many aspects of transition that took on completely different ways of being with it. And I'm taken away. No wonder transitions have so much in them.
Right.
They're very dense and it aerated a bit today. Maybe it was a screaming on the roller coaster, but yeah.
Did you like to sit in the front, Stephanie?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I like to be in the back and be whipped around. But so for me, the thing that became so clear is transitions are really hard, but it's so much nicer to do it with partners and just to be able to share. And it might not be pretty, but it's okay to just voice it. And as you voice it, for me, there was a settling. And so it was, okay, I can take the next curve. Because I've been able to express what's coming up for me, and in others sharing, it's like, oh wow, I hadn't thought about that. That's such an important perspective to consider. And so the community piece of it made the whole notion of transition just a smidge easier to step into.
I was noticing that even for myself, Stephanie, but in terms of my own internal community. So I just got back from 4 days in California. I think I must have bumped into about 9 Davids, nine versions of David from different parts of my life. And after a while, it was quite cacophonous after a while, because you're trying to, it was just really interesting. And we used to think about transition as if it was a singular noun, or even maybe at best a singular verb, but it's actually this weaving of all these different selves that are affected by or touched on by a particular transition we might be in. But it was, it was quite something. Yeah. And Jan, you joined us partway through. Like, what did you end up talking about, and how did you? What are you leaving our session today with?
Well, unfortunately, I'm in the UK, and my computer lied to me when it transferred the time, so I came in an hour late, which was a bit annoying. But I had a nice conversation with Emily, and it gave me a sense of what the open house was about, and what it was for, and what I could get from it. So I stayed around for the end to get a feeling of what's happened, even though I was a part of it.
Okay. Any other final words or questions, reflections before we end for today? Emily, anything you noticed in your group? Anything you want to share from your experience of the conversation?
Well, I just had a conversation with Jan, so
Mhm.
we had a lovely back and forth and kind of sharing of how we ended up in this space together today. And you know, the possibilities of what the lab offers in terms of community, and just a safe place to be as you're figuring some things out, whether it's what these concepts and techniques look like in your practice, or as you know, Michael shared, what it looks like going through transitions during this time. So it was nice to be able to connect with you, Jan, in that way. I did want to say, for those of you who are new to this space and who might want to learn a little bit more about the Threshold Lab, I'm just going to put a link here in the chat area. And this is just a link to our page on the website that explains it a little bit more, the origin story, and you know, where we are in launching this community. And if you have a curiosity and you want to dig deeper, there's a link there where you can join. And there are two kind of, I like to describe it as two sides of the house with the lab. There is our online learning community. So that is a platform that allows us to have asynchronous interactions and communication together, rich discussions and forums and places that we can share. And then we have these Monday meetup sessions. So these are our synchronous opportunities to come alongside of each other in conversation and in community. So if you have more curiosity about that, you can find information on the website, but also I'd be happy to stay on any longer if there are more unique questions.
All right.
I appreciate the framing. Sorry, David. I just really appreciate the framing that was offered today by both you and Emily. About what, you know, it's hard to articulate what this is all about. I think the words are forming, the ideas are forming, and the way we talked about signage last week, and they were wonderful signs that I appreciate it, beginning and end of it. Thank you.
Manjeet, is there anything you'd like to offer? You're on mute.
It's a lovely way to start the week, meet some new friends, and reconnect with old friends. And thank you, Michael, for introducing that topic. I think transition is really the only constant. And I think our conversation around creating our ride, the rides coming at us, and how to stand amidst that has been a gift. And as I said during our breakout session, I'm learning to stand still within the transition. Which feels very important right now.
Right. All right. Well, I want to just thank you all for your wonderful time with us today, joining us in this space. And yeah, it's good to see you. I hope that you'll come and visit us again. And as Emily shared, there's ways to find out more about how on our website, and coming up in September, we'll be posting all the information about our programs for next year as well. So thank you for gracing us with your presence, and we look forward to seeing you again. All right. Thanks, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.